Okay, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Live from Sword Coast podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly dungeon user this evening. Tonight, I am continuing on with my participation in the annual RPG-A-Day event for August of this year, for August of 2018. For those who are unfamiliar with this exercise, this is something where we are posting a different answer to different questions asked for every day in the month of August. This year for 2018. I guess I've kind of beat that little tidbit into the ground here. I'm just going to double check and make sure that we are actually streaming, and it does appear that we are. That's great. So the question today is, describe how your play has evolved. Now, I think there are a lot of the other questions that we've dealt with talked about how we've changed, we have changed in response to our gaming and things like that. So rather than talk about how what games I play and whatever else, I think what I'll choose to do is just talk very briefly about how my play has evolved in terms of what I use, like what technology I use to play. So up until around about maybe about 8 years ago, the only way that I really played role-playing games was in person. You know, I tend to play just with friends, not with, I don't want to play a role-playing game so badly that I would go down to a gaming store and try and find people to play with there. It was really something that I played with friends. And every time I moved to some new place, I mean, there would be, sometimes I'd have opportunities to have a group of friends or make a group of friends that were gamers as well. I tend to run games, so it's easier to sort of find that community by building that community by saying, hey, I'm going to be running this game, come and play in it. But there's been times where I've lived in places where I just have not been able to get that together. So, the extent of my play has been reading books. Where I've been living now for the last about 12 or 13 years is in Calgary, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I've been very fortunate to have made some really good friends in law school who were all gamers as well. So we had a lot of opportunities to get together in person and play. And that's continued on for quite a few years. And then things started sort of petering off with as life got in the way, careers got in the way and people having children and things like that. I'm not even sure how I started doing this, how I started doing the Skype gaming, but we started with Skype gaming. And that was about, maybe it wasn't 8 years ago, maybe it was shorter, maybe it was about 6 or 7 years ago. And what we were doing then was really rudimentary stuff, really just trying to get a sort of secure Skype connection that was stable enough so that we could, hold up books and hold up maps and stuff like that to each other and play that way. And we played that way for quite a while, and then I got a little more fancy where I incorporated multiple cameras, and I was using a map in person and then shooting that, and then having guys give instructions of where they wanted to move and so forth. And that was a mixed that one was a mixed results, to be honest, because we often spend a lot of time with people saying, no, not over there, over here, no, not there, over here. And then I think it was about 4 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, is when I discovered Roll20, and Roll20 was a real game changer for us. We started making great use of that because it had such, setting aside the great character sheets and things like that were on there, and the dice rollers, the fact that you could create tokens and with the drag and drop of a mouse, and you could import maps from whatever you could find online or whatever you could design yourself. That was a significant change in the quality of our gameplay. The most way we've been playing, really, I think for the last 3 or 4 years, has effectively we're in the same now, where we are playing on Roll20, and then we stream our games as well too. We had been using, we transitioned over from Skype to Google Plus, partly because the Google Hangouts at the time had a direct interface with Roll20 that didn't ever tend to work out that well. So, and then they took away the add-ons for Google Hangouts, and then they incorporated Google Hangouts into YouTube. So now we play effectively on YouTube, or we stream our games at least on YouTube, and then we play on Roll20. And that's the way that my games are played 95% of the time nowadays. So my plays evolved to the point where my prep has changed from like trying to create, you know, physical maps sometimes, or like making sure I've got the snacks and whatever else so people can come over and then lay out the map and blah blah blah, and draw them. Now it's really making sure that the digital assets are ready to go on Roll20 when I run it. Make sure I've got some cool pictures and things like that, and that's quite handy because it's a lot easier than like printing off a bunch of photos and stuff like that to be in person. So I think it actually has advantages in some ways over playing in a physical person. It's a lot easier just to, you know, for people to just be home and log on. It's a lot easier to import a lot of really neat visual stuff. It's got some dice rollers, so if you're playing a game that has a fairly big dice pools, or, you know, complicated dice mechanics that require you to look at things on dice, like I'm thinking specifically like if you're running Champions or Hero System game, or if you're running the Fantasy Flight Star Wars games, there's a lot of like looking at what you rolled and then adding up numbers and subtracting other numbers and stuff like that, and having the Shadowrun actually for that matter as well too. Having the Roll20 just do that for you is pretty great. Now, the one thing that it does not capture quite as well though is the energy in the room when you're playing with people in a room. You know, and I once a year we get together, myself, my regular gaming group in Winnipeg, in my hometown, and we play a big gaming marathon. And the energy at that session is dramatic. It's just different. It's a different quality, and I think a better quality of sort of I guess the atmosphere you get from having those players at the table and everyone reacting in person and things like that. That's something. And then I recently ran a one-shot for a friend of mine who was visiting from out of town too, and I really noticed that the way that I was engaging with the game and the enthusiasm I had for it, I was able to play off of the players, or feed off of the players' enthusiasm a lot more so than I do online. I think that's probably because you're not getting the you know, screen between you and them. You're not getting sometimes the audio quality issues. In person, it's a lot easier to know when everyone's sort of, you know, paying attention and everyone's engaged, like everyone's looking at the rule books and looking at the character sheets and stuff like that. So that is one thing that has I've realized that there's recently that there is that big difference. So maybe I need to start trying to actually get more in-person sessions, which is difficult because most of my players are all across Canada, so that's trickier to get done. But that's how my play has evolved. I know it's a more practical answer for it than what you know, than a more esoteric, or not esoteric, but a more kind of well, maybe esoteric or ethereal kind of interpretation of like how the way you engage with role-playing games has evolved. This is just my practical thing, and I mean, I would not be able to play. One thing that I will say about the digital or the use of digital resources is that I certainly wouldn't be able to play the amount of games that I do if I was having to make sure that I either go to someone else's house, or, you know, I have to have that, get my place ready for people to come over, and then allow for time where you're bullshitting beforehand, bullshitting afterwards. You know, that's one thing that does really cut down in the digital gaming is, even though I game with a group of my, you know, some of my oldest friends, we tend to not do a lot of bullshitting, kind of just get right down to business, and then we do our bullshitting through email or Facebook or whatever the hell, you know, other way we have. So anyway, that's my answer for today's question for how has my gaming evolved. Tomorrow, describe a failure that became amazing. Okay, actually, I know what that'll be for tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll be talking about what failure became amazing. And again, I'm going to choose to scroll that question in a way that I want to answer. So as always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding my answer, or regarding if you want to just talk or tell me how your play has evolved, either the physical like way that you actually get together and play your games, or your actual, you know, the way that you interact with role-playing games, how the way that you play them has changed. And please don't hesitate to drop me a line. You can leave a message in the comment section of this video. You can shoot me an email at dungeonmusings@gmail.com, or you can shoot me a tweet at dungeonmusings on Twitter. Also, so you may notice that there are links in the bottom description of this video. Those are to the charity fundraising campaign that we are running called Heroes Save Villages. This is something where we have paired up with the SOS Children's Villages International Charity, which is a terrific organization that provides both direct assistance to children in high needs circumstances, as well as advocates for children's interests worldwide. So I would ask that if you do enjoy the video or you enjoy the channel, just consider clicking through and reading a little bit more about the campaign. And the other link is to a video that I shot that describes my reasons for setting up the campaign and my involvement with SOS Children's Villages International. So anyway, but obviously those are completely optional. Please don't feel obligated to contribute to those. I just ask that if you enjoy the video, you consider going through and every dollar that they receive goes directly to them and helps them do the very good work that they've been doing. So anyway, thanks very much, folks, and I will see you tomorrow for day 14. Getting close to the halfway mark. So we'll see you then. Thanks. Bye-bye.